Okay, good evening, everybody. It's great to be here with you this evening. Welcome to the public meeting for the unveiling of the design for the community courts. I'm really excited about this project, and I'm really excited about this unique opportunity to make this vision a reality for our community. I think now is the time to move forward with this project. We have a really unique set of circumstances right now with the schools doing their facilities updates, and so we're going to pitch that to you today. The design concept, kind of the reasoning that went into it. And we're looking for feedback, continuous feedback in the process. But we're really excited, both the school administration, school board, myself, my whole administration, everybody's very excited about this project. So thanks for being here. So we're talking about the community courts, and I want to tell you what this project includes. First of all, in its current plan, this project will be attached to the middle school. It'll contain two main gyms, each functioning as a feature court with bleachers, and each of those two gyms converting to make two practice courts. So we'll have a total of 4 practice courts at all times for use. A variety of things that will be done on hard surface like basketball, volleyball, futsal, archery, pickleball, some soccer. A lot of things can be done on hard court, but we also know that there's a need for some turf space indoors. And so over the last 9 months of taking feedback, we've actually added a turf field to the project to accommodate those things. And so we have designed a turf field size of about 120 feet by 150 feet. So this isn't a full-size football field. This isn't a full-size what you call soccer field. This is more for training and activities than it is for games. But it allows an awful lot of use in the months where it's hard to be outside, right? Another major feature is the walking track, which will be above the one gym and the turf field. And I'm pretty excited. That track will be 7.5 laps per mile, which is pretty good. So outdoor track, you're talking 4 laps per mile. This will be 7.5. So it won't feel like you're on the hamster wheel when you're up on that track. So I'm pretty excited about that. We were able to get a very nice sized track. We have an administrative space that'll have such things as restrooms and some changing rooms, and 2 to 3 studio rooms for activities such as yoga and dance. One of the things that's really cool is the middle school design, which the architect will talk about. It now includes a locker room facility that the school would like. It won't be part of our project, but it'll be adjacent to our gyms. And so if we have some bigger events where we need some locker room space, it'll be there for this community project, but it'll be built with the school. So I'm very excited. Not only will we have the locker room, they're also planning to have a very large indoor space next to the gyms that could be used for concessions, gathering for these larger events. So this is a really dynamic project. What we're building is very exciting, but also how it interrelates with what the school is building is very exciting. So they'll talk a little bit more about that. The original vision for this project was released in last January at the State of the City. And at that time, we envisioned a separate facility. Community courts would be built separately, but we would connect it in some way to the middle school. We didn't know yet how, because we were still developing our school plans. And that concept included only 2 basketball courts, an elevated track, and a multi-purpose studio space. So this project is similar to what was proposed in January, but perhaps a little more expansive than what we originally envisioned. We've been receiving feedback over the last 9 months from residents since we announced the project, and they've told us what they'd like to see. And I'd like to say that we've incorporated almost everything that people have asked for. And the turf field was a big one. A lot of people were interested in having that turf. And the current design really reflects most of the comments we received. There's a couple things that aren't there that I'll tell you about. So the vision that we moved forward with was based on 3 concepts. That the community desired indoor recreational space, something we're really lacking on. And I'll get to that in a minute. The courts are also envisioned to complement, not compete with our other health and wellness facilities in the City of Greene. For example, the YMCA and Akron General Health and Wellness Centers, they both have Olympic-sized pools. And we are not proposing a pool because we have the needs met by those pools in our community. We are also not proposing workout equipment that you would see in maybe a rec center, where you would have those workout machines, because we have, again, 2 facilities that do that very well. We're not looking to compete, but to complement. The facility would serve our residents of all ages, from toddler activities through our Silver Sneakers programs. So the intent of this project is to serve everybody in our community, no matter what your age. So how did we get here? So when the schools asked about getting together on this project, we started looking at, this is a reality. And back from 2006, we had a parks planning process that did a survey, and people were asking for an indoor space. So this isn't a new concept. This has been asked for in our community for quite some time. Obviously, we haven't addressed that. In 2020, again, we did a community survey during our parks planning process. Again, we saw the community asking for indoor space. And so that has been there, and the opportunity perhaps is here for us to provide that. But I'm going to ask Jeff Miller. Jeff, why don't you talk a little bit about what you heard in the school facility planning process in regard to that indoor space?
Yeah, so we obviously engaged master facility planning, the process some time ago, multiple years ago. And when we met with our community stakeholders, all different groups, the one thing that kept coming up was the lack of indoor facilities, specifically gymnasiums. And then with our ultimate plan that led to going from 5 buildings down to 4, that meant 1 less gym. So that obviously posed a situation where we work together, and I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, so be a little more specific about what was happening. So people said they are already perceiving a shortage of gym space, right? And now you're one of the concepts that you provided them was removing 1 building. So tell me what it was that they were experiencing, that they felt that there was this need to have more gym space.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience, one of the things that I dealt with yesterday is I have a 5th grader that had basketball youth practice until 9 o'clock. So by the time he gets home and is hungry because he practiced and then gets ready for bed, it's near 10 o'clock by the time my 5th grader is going to bed. So my story is not unique from many of the several hundred parents that have similar situations. So we do our best to collaborate and share with the community and the youth programs, but obviously we only have the space that we have. And although the plan was for our schools would have been great, we looked at this as a great opportunity to try to change some of those situations that I just described, and that's where the mayor came in.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So, I said before, we have a unique opportunity here with the planning of the new school facilities, and I think that's the driver here. Without that, I don't know if this project would have risen to the surface. I know the park board has many objectives, many things they want to accomplish. So I don't know if it would have risen to the surface so quickly, but I think with the ability to work together with the schools, it's become really the focus, right? And so, as we mentioned, the Green Local Schools will have 1 less building on that Steese Road school property. So it's pretty much where the intermediate school will be open, and that's where we originally wanted to put the community courts. And of course, now that the design's updated, and we'll talk about that briefly, but with the design, we're still in that space. And so we have an opportunity with 1 less building that we have an open spot to build this community facility, which is really great because it's a great location for us to use. The city investment in this facility will help keep our property taxes low by building the gym space needed for the middle school. So property taxes are very important to me. For those who don't know, Greene has the lowest property tax rates in Summit County. And even with the school levy, we will still have the lowest property tax rates in Summit County. But in discussions with Board President Bob Campbell and others, I desired to keep that way. That, I think it's important for us to have low taxes here. And so one of my encouragement to the school board was to try to keep that levy as low as possible. Our chance of success would be much greater if we could keep it as low as possible. And I hope the taxpayers appreciate how low this levy is compared to other districts. They did a great job of putting something out there that isn't going to cost us that much to modernize all our properties. So the other opportunity here is to maximize tax dollars. Our contractor estimates that we'll save $3 to $4 million in construction costs by building the school and the court project together. That's pretty significant in the ability to do that. That's why I think the timing now is perfect to take this opportunity to build these together by the cost savings. And then, so if we build this facility, it allows the schools to focus maybe a little bit more on educational space, less on sports. So Jeff, why don't you talk a little bit about how you could focus on your educational space by not having to build some of this sports space?
Yeah, the other piece of feedback that we continued to get was to make sure we plan for growth. Obviously, our community said they want these buildings to last 50 years. So as the community grows, they want to make sure that we have the additional space. By the city taking on this project, we would be able to take that resource of square footage and put it back into the buildings, which we would be able to, in talking with the architects, which they'll be more specific later, we are able to add an additional 2 classrooms per grade level in that building. We would be able to increase the size of our band room and our fine art space. And by doing all of that, we're able to enhance the ability to have growth as time goes on. So it would be a huge value to the schools.
Thank you, Jeff. So the project cost, as we see it today, would be about $14.9 million, and that includes design fees. So that's the price tag on the square footage that you see here. And once again, this is easily twice the space envisioned in January when we first put this forward. We do have some opportunities here to fund this, though. We have a park capital fund, which is funded by 7% of our income taxes. That's a unique feature in the city of Greene. I'm not aware of any other community around that has this set aside of 7% of your income tax. That translates to about $2 million a year, just for some perspective. That is used for park capital. That's pretty unique. And I see Robert Keith back there nodding his head because he knows that's why we have beautiful pickleball courts with lighting and all those things, because we have this set aside money every year to improve our parks. And that's something pretty unique to our community. Now, the funding source for this project would probably be bonds. We're looking anywhere from 20 to 30-year bonds. Steve Schmidt's here. He's our financial advisor here. And to repay those bonds, we'd be looking at a combination of Park Capital Fund financing that, and perhaps the city's general fund could also contribute to that. So you don't want to burden the park board's ability to improve some other things in our community. They have other objectives that are very important to them, and so I think perhaps a combination of park capital and general fund would be the appropriate way to handle that. Council is going to have a lot to do with that, so appreciate council people being here today to join this discussion. Let's talk about schedule a little bit, because it's pretty important into why we're here today. The original plan was to phase the school construction in several phases. They would build one school, transfer students, tear one down, build the next school where that one was, transfer students, tear it down, so on. And our part would have come last, because we were going to build where the intermediate school, which was the last one to be torn down. This presented a timing issue, because we had to build the gym space to be ready when their school was done, and that put some stress on us. How were we going to accomplish that? And through the architect, we've looked at how to solve that problem. But that was a problem that we had when we looked at this in January. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff here. And Jeff, could you share with us what has changed from that original concept over the last few months, maybe to shed some light on where we're at today?
Yeah, so as the mayor mentioned, we had multi-phases, buildings staggered, and one of the things that I did not enjoy talking to parents and staff about is that when your kids left the intermediate school to the middle school, they had to go back to the intermediate school while this school was being built. So that posed an issue. So one of the smart things we did was we brought on Sol Harris Day as architects, and I was very happy to be able to tell people that we were able to do all these buildings at one time. We would have no swing space, is what they call it, which we would be responsible as a community to fund that, whether it would be trailers or what have you. So to not have to do that was a huge thing. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our team here, Melinda and Andrew from Sol Harris, and let them get into more specifics about how they came up with that great idea.
Thanks, Jeff. So as Jeff mentioned, we got hired in May, so not that long ago, to come all full circle. And when we started working on this project, as both the mayor and Jeff had mentioned, the new middle school, the thought was that it was going to be built on the footprint of the existing middle school. And so with that, we were looking at building the new elementary school on the primary site before we even started anything on this site. And as one of the early steps in our design process, we're always trying to brainstorm and think of ideas of how we can deliver a better project. And so we just went through an early study on, is there a way to build a building on this site outside of the footprint of the existing building so that it can be built while they're in operation and we don't have to wait that extra 2 years. I know we can all see when we go to the grocery store how inflation affects all of us, and that in construction is not immune to that. So if we move the timeline up, we're saving the district dollars. So that was one of the early things we started to study. And so as part of that, we kind of developed some preliminary plans to look at the size of the building and how it may work. And we were really excited to kind of come back to these guys and say, hey, we think it's possible to build the building, keep you in operation, the existing intermediate and middle school. And then that kind of led way to then further conversation. Well, yeah, but can you also look at this community center? Because ideally, as the mayor said, for things to work out perfectly in everyone's eyes, that would also fit outside of the footprint of the two existing buildings so that it could become online at the same time. So that took a little more time to figure out. But through, kind of teamwork and collaboration, we were able to come up with a plan that kind of got all of that fit back behind the two existing buildings. So the schedule moved up quite a bit as part of that, but it's really kind of the best case scenario for the school, as they both mentioned, not having to swing students and disrupt educational processes for both staff and students, and then to kind of save on inflation, waiting 2 years to start construction.
Yeah, and that also solved the problem of having the gyms available then when the schools were complete. And so that was kind of cool. I need to tell you though, the first concept. So they said they were going to build where the old middle school was, and we had the space where the intermediate school was. And so I was envisioning like this perhaps pedestrian bridge spanning the two of them over Bulldog Boulevard, and I could see decorative bulldogs there and all that. It would be really kind of a cool concept. But at the end of the day, it's also expensive, right? So the ability to build these together, as we see now, saves us about $3 to $4 million. We won't have that cool pedestrian walkway, but we'll have a very usable facility in our community. So that's pretty exciting about the changes. But as Melinda said, it put us under now a great deal of pressure, because what I needed designed in 25 now has to be designed in 23. And so this last 9 months of accumulating information from the public and accepting those comments, thinking we had a process of accumulating information, hiring an architect, going through a long process, has really been accelerated, like turbo accelerated. So we need to get going, and this is kind of the launch of this process to get it going and get moving, because we don't have time. We don't have time to delay. We really need to get this going with this new scale. So they put some pressure on us, but I think ultimately it's going to be a better project. Well, I know it's a better project. So very excited about that. So the last thing we want to talk about until we take some questions is about the design specifics. And I know Jeff Miller introduced the team here from Sol Harris Day, but we have Andrew Lalathan is to your right, and also Melinda Scalfaro. And so she's going to do a little presentation, her and Andrew, about the design related to the courts, not necessarily the schools, but perhaps some of the features that tie those things together. And then we'll open up for questions.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. So on the screens behind me, you can see what the site looks like today. So Steese Road is along the bottom of what you see on the screen. The middle school, the existing middle school, is on the left side or the west side of the site. The intermediate school is on the east side of the site right there. So what we've been talking about, the new middle school and community courts, is really going to kind of go over the footprint of where some of Bulldog Boulevard is. It would be just west of the tennis courts and kind of crossing over where Bulldog Boulevard currently is. So one of the things I just wanted to elaborate on as we talk a little bit more about the plan and what is kind of gaining on the school side a little bit more, and Jeff kind of alluded to it, but the school district is working with the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, and as part of that, the school size is basically prescribed by the enrollment projection, the date they move in. So to Jeff's point, when we're trying to build buildings for 50 years and we're limited to square footage based on the number of students in 2025, it gets really hard to plan for growth. And so this is a way really to allow for the school to plan for some of that growth. So you can see on the site plan, and I'm going to point to the board now, so since it's a little bit closer, but Bulldog Boulevard, this is currently where the footprint is now as we come up by the field. But one of the first things that we'll do is reroute Bulldog Boulevard here, and it will kind of tie into the existing parking lot by the stadium. And then this new building here, the middle school, will be the western portion, and then the community courts will wrap around the eastern portion and to the south side of the building. The buildings will be totally segregated on a day-to-day basis during the school day, keeping students and staff totally separate from anybody that would be in the community side. And all of that can be controlled and prescribed through, automatic controls and locks. So we have parking, both community parking on the east side of the building, kind of the school parking on the south side of the building. Now I'm going to hand it over to Andrew, and he's going to talk a little bit more about the specifics of the floor plans.
All right, so with the first floor plan being shown up on the screen and then also here on the board. So again, as the mayor had spoken about, again, really having two feature courts. So the one feature court would be that blue area. So again, you'd have a full 50 by 84 court, and then there would be two full-size cross courts. So those cross courts would also be 50 by 84, which is your standard court size for middle school and high school. And with that, you'd be able to run two practices simultaneously within those cross courts, but then also that main feature court, basically having bleachers then on both sides to designate a home and a visitor side. That green area that's also called the community courts with track above, that would be kind of a basically the same size gymnasium with the feature court, but again, having those two full-size cross courts. So with that, if youth or practices were going on, you could have four basically full-size courts being utilized at one time. I know Jeff had mentioned just again about times being extended late into the evening. So again, with that ability to have practices, at least four, kind of running simultaneously, getting those through quicker. But that would be the main court area, right kind of in the front of the school, closer to Steese at the bottom of the page, that's labeled community studio space. So again, that area would be segregated and completely secure and separated from the school during regular school hours. Within that space, again, having a few studio areas to go ahead and hold certain classes, but then also with the opportunity that the mayor had talked about with, restroom space, concessions, really within that space to be utilized also then after hours. So again, being able to open up, both of those sides after school hours to utilize that as one cohesive space.
Yeah, and Andrew, let me add, one of the things I did not want to provide was a locker room. just did not want to have to deal with knowing what's going on in there all the time. And so we intentionally did not put a locker room in that space. It's pretty much a show up and play space. But with the schools adding the locker room from their side, we won't have it under our control. But when we need that, it'll be available through the schools. So I just wanted to point out that was something we were not going to provide in our vision, but we still have it in the collaboration of the school. So that's pretty cool that if you have a tournament that they say we need locker rooms, you have that ability.
And then on the north side of that green gym, that would be the 120 feet by 150 foot turf field area. So again, really just a multi-use space for different activities, different events, drop down batting cages in that area. But again, really just a multi-purpose space to be used for a variety of different, sports for training exercises. And then really, as we go to the second floor then, as the mayor had spoke about, that would be the elevated track, which is right behind me. So again, you would have an elevator and a stair to go ahead and access that second level. And then with that elevated track, you basically would span the gymnasium and the turf field in green.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
So
I don't know if you want us to elaborate on the some of the savings, I guess, are garnered by, having one building that has one set of utilities running to it. You have a consolidation of construction. You're talking about less exterior walls, things like that. So those are some of the things that got calculated by the construction manager in order to come up with that savings number.
We built a couple years earlier.
Yeah, that as well.
So there's a lot of factors. I think being just a site. So if you can think about it, we'll have one water line coming to the combined facility, one sewer line, all those things, electric service, all those things that you'll save by doing them together. And that's really, it adds up. They said it's $100 a square foot difference, which we're building that much square footage that it adds up to $3 to $4 million. So it's pretty significant. So the other thing I wanted to say about the track is that our original concept, we were going to run that track over the gyms, the 2 gym space, and part of it was community. One was community, one was school. Now we've gone to 4 gyms, but that would have made certain times a day you would have only been able to go halfway because of security reasons. And now that we've added the turf and we're able to orient the track the other way, north-south, and we can get a larger track that's open not 24/7, but open during business hours, not closed at any time for school issues. That really is a nice facility, and we're also working at making sure that's rounding the corners so you don't feel like you're walking through an office building, but more rounded corners so it's a better experience. So I'm very excited about getting that facility back in our community because we haven't had that indoor, a really good walking trail in our community for the winter, the rougher season. I know there's a lot of people who used to use it at the high school, so we're very excited about that. Okay, that's what we'd like to tell you, but there might be a few more things stuck up here that I forgot to mention. So if you have any questions, hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions. If not, we will get that information published through our city website. Maybe, Valerie, you want to talk a little bit about how we're communicating this outside of this meeting?
Correct. Thank you. One of the things why I grabbed the microphone isn't because I really wanted to speak, but because when we ask the questions, we want it to be picked up for our live stream so that everyone who's watching this or wants to watch it later can hear that. So if you'll wait until I bring the microphone around. We have all the information that's in your hand is also on our website, and in there is also some frequently asked questions of things that we've already received. I think we've covered pretty much everything in those frequently asked questions here tonight, but then, as we get more questions, we will continue to add that. And as things get updated and revised in more detail gets put on this, you'll see that on that page as well. So we'll start with you.
I'm interested in what, if any, impact do you expect to the traffic on Steets Road early in the morning?
So that really hasn't been studied as it relates to the courts project at this time. We have conducted a traffic study as it relates to the school project. And in general, if you think about right now, there's a middle school and an intermediate school on that site. So you have grades 4 through 8. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I always like correct myself. And now we're going to be reducing by 2 grade levels on that site. So we're actually taking 2 grades worth of students will be at the new elementary. So we're only building a 6 through 8 on that site. So you're actually reducing traffic on this site.
You also have perhaps, Mr. Bender, that this building is set back now. And so now you have much more storage of cars. The bus storage is allotted for in the back of the building instead of the front. So in addition to less parents dropping off students because they're at the other school off of Graybill, you also have a more efficient system of getting those people off the roads. I don't anticipate large events in the courts, so to speak, on school days. So I think that would be a minor impact in terms of that. I think perhaps the question you were asking, because you're on Steese Road often, you live close by, is we have a couple problems during the day with traffic there, right? So I think this project's going to do a lot of improvement on Steese Road.
Somebody else had a question here? Must have been the same question. Any other questions? You guys don't have to fight.
I might know the answer to this question, but Jeff, you talked about, both of you talked about the idea that we consolidated buildings, so we're reducing the current number of gyms available with these courts and the 50 by 84 side courts, being 4 at a time. What's the net gain on gym space as we sit today once we take the buildings down and put the new ones up?
Well, yeah, you're going to correct me though. So we're going to do -1 building, and let's just say that one of these courts is the middle school. So it should be a +2. But I believe the new elementary school will now have a full-size gym, which is a vast improvement over the one at Greenwood. So it's a +2 plus the one at Greenwood wasn't very functional for a lot of things. So you could say it's a +3. Right?
Correct. That is correct.
Oh, I got it right.
Okay. I have a few technical suggestions and questions. So I don't know whether you guys have worked on the details of type of turf you're going to use. Not yet.
Okay,
Yeah,
Victor, let me just say that they really haven't gotten into any detail at all.
That's wonderful.
Plan. So
that's good.
Where we're at today is space planning, conceptual. They don't have a contract yet, so council has to still approve that. So
Okay.
I just so everybody has an idea that, and we're still accepting comment. I know Victor had said something like with our track that we can do a pit for long jump
Well,
as
that's
part of the track.
what I was
And
thinking about.
Those are the types of things that we are getting into those details.
Well, here are some of the suggestions. And I know when we build new infrastructure, one of the things we always keep in mind, at least people who are planning, is that if you incorporate whatever facilities that we want right from the start, it's become cheaper. And that's one of the reasons I want to make this point. Indoor running track, I do not know what material you guys are going to use. It's a very important factor in terms of the quality for old people like me running and all that stuff. Or walking, forget about Bob runs marathons and all that stuff. But Mundo is the surface that comes to my mind. So if you all need some information, I don't know whether you know about the Mundo track. Do you know? Okay. So keep that thing in mind. If you have any other questions about it, I would be happy to assist you. The second thing is the the athletic training room I was suggesting in the green area for the community. Now, I was thinking about maybe the school has that already. So we don't have to have a designated place. If anyone is hurt or they need some ice, we can run to the school side and get that information, get the ice and.
Well, and once again, the value of having these buildings combined, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would, so you don't have to kind of worry about the athletic training room in that green area. When I say green area, I'm looking at the community.
Yes, it's probably the administrative and studio space on the drawing. Yeah.
Okay. So the in-ground jumping pit, that's a pet of mine because we had Green School always had good jumpers. All right. And it is easy to do. It's not complicated. And if you start early in a sense, when you construct it, it is all flat. When the, batting cages come about, it'll be under that. And when we want to use it, so please keep that in mind. I don't want you to forget about the in-ground build jumping pit. And that can also be used for rehabilitation and so forth. It has a multi-purpose use. It's just not jumping. All right? So I hope that anyone taking minutes on this, Valerie? Oh, wonderful. I want to make sure that this is recorded and yes.
You can retain this video clip of yourself.
No.
Forever.
I'm not worried about myself. So you talked about 30 years to pay this funding and all that stuff.
We're looking at probably 20 to 30 year bonds.
So
yes.
I'll be 92 by then. Be still jumping. Absolutely. And the last thing is something to think about. I'm sure, I hope it is there right now. You're at least thinking about it. Are the retractable screens in that turf area where we can have multiple divided into maybe two halves or four, so that different activities can go on simultaneously. So those are some of the things that I think would kind of enhance the use of it for the community and the school system.
So just a little background to Victor. This is his career was on sports management.
Well, let me put it this way. I was a director of sports science at the University of Akron and built a facility there, indoor facility. So I know a little bit of it.
So he may be a reference to you through the process. He certainly has the knowledge and definitely the passion to help make this project
if there's no indoor track, then indoor pit, someone is going to get hurt. I'm telling you right now. All right. So, okay. Having said that, go ahead.
No, if you have something else to say, feel free.
Having said that, the collaboration between the school system and the city is such a wonderful collaboration. And when I was a board member, I used to always boast about this collaboration. People in Wadsworth and Talmadge used to always kind of envy us. And I'm happy that you guys are continuing this project with this collaboration. And it also reminds me it's like a small mini Olympic village. I'm excited about it. There's so many facilities and all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Victor.
I love your passion, Victor. Thank you.
Yes. What consideration have you given to future expansion? Specifically, I'm thinking doubling the size of the community courts.
Well, Mr. Zeeler, there's really big dreams out there. As you know, somebody else in our community is dreaming of a dome, which is a cheaper, not cheaper in quality. It's a cheaper construction method than what we're building here. And he envisions a couple full-size indoor turf soccer, football, lacrosse fields. And so that's a vision that we are not pursuing on, especially on this site. We don't have the space to even do a full-size football field indoors. So, I'm going to address what you said, but perhaps there's a field house somewhere down the road in this community's future. Maybe this private investor provides that for our community. There's options. This site does not afford the ability, and the way it's designed, we're really in a tight spot. I should say it's sufficient, but you're talking about doubling the 4, so you're talking about potentially 8 courts on site. One of the things I wanted to mention, because this will have 4, that this is also adjacent to the high school that has a main gym with bleachers and an auxiliary gym. So what we offer on this one site is 6 full gymnasiums for events that need more, and we have obviously within 4 minutes we'll have 2 other schools that have full gyms, so we can offer 8 full-size gyms within a 5-minute transition. So what we think is this will be somewhat unique in communities to have this level of facility for whatever. So it might be JO volleyball, it might be AAU basketball, whatever it is. We're going to be able to invite some of those things here that I think will really benefit our community. And certainly this site is outstanding to have this opportunity. Think about all this existing parking that exists. We don't have to spend all that money on site prep, all that money on parking. We have the adjacent 6 tennis courts, which is there. We have the adjacent Central Park, the football stadium, the outdoor track. All these features. It couldn't be a better scenario for the center of our community. In fact, we've looked at names, and we keep coming back to the word central, like Green Central, Bulldog Central, because this is like the heart of the community is right here, and having all these facilities. We do not have the space to do 4 more gyms here. That might have to happen somewhere else. It doesn't work on this site.
Anyone else have any questions? If anyone has additional questions, please feel free to reach out to any of the individuals here. Of course, the mayor is always available. And then also on our website, if you do go to our page, that's cityofgreen.org/courts, you can ask questions there as well. There is a link for a form. So thank you so much. Any final words?
Well, yeah, maybe I should elaborate on where we're going from here. Mr. Miller and I did come to the park board meeting in November, and it was kind of a first step, so the park board could see the project. We've done this meeting publicly. The next event that would be of some interest to some of you might be the next council meeting, because we have legislation going in for design fees, so we can start designing in earnest, right? So that'll be the next step, and council usually does 3 readings, so it'll take a month to get through that process, but you have points of engagement along that way. Plus, you have points to feedback through the city's information. So what I'm telling everybody is there's still room to ask questions. There's still room to provide suggestions. We have a process that we're going through, but that has to move forward. This is the time frame for this to work. So this pretty much has to be done architect under services by the end of the year for this to work.
Can you speak to how the operation and maintenance of these 2 facilities is going to be managed?
Yeah, so my vision is that since we're not doing workout machines, swimming pool, those sorts of things, that we're really more of a timing event type of planning, that we would primarily use our staff to be basically site monitors, which is what our staff does right now. We have site monitors all summer long, are going to various sites throughout the city, and they would be available, I think, in the winter when this is a primary use to do the same function. So we already have that function in the city. I can see us programming in conjunction with the YMCA and Cleveland Clinic Life. Is it Lifestyles? Yeah. I can see us where they would bring in instructors, and we'd work out an agreement that they could perhaps use the studio space. So what we're trying to do is complement what they do, because the YMCA is kind of limited on gym space, right? They only have so much, and same with Lifestyles. But if they can take advantage of their programming, expanding it, and working with our facility, and I guess the point is that if they bring in instructors. So we're not looking to hire a staff of instructors. They would bring some of that instruction with them. And so we really become a scheduling kind of site monitoring function, and not really that intensive like the YMCA does the programming and Lifestyles does the programming. That's not where we're going at this time. Now, I think it'll expand our recreational offerings, certainly for seniors and for toddlers and youth. That'll give us a lot more opportunity, especially in the winter months when most of us kind of shut down, actively. I think I can easily see a wintertime flag football league, for example, playing there. Now, you wouldn't have a full football court, but you don't need to, right? You can set your rules. So those are the kind of advantages that I see in our community without really a lot of operating cost. I would envision that the city, and we haven't drawn up the legal agreement yet, but I would see the city maintaining this complex, and that's how my vision is now, right? We have similar arrangements right now. The city maintains this wonderful facility, right? Because you're sitting in this is where the school board meets, this is where council meets, so it's a joint facility. But the city pretty much maintains the facility. The schools does contribute a little bit financially, but we're responsible, and I see the same function there. Okay, so that's my vision today.
I would also like to suggest a small component that would enhance experience for high school students with the health and wellness component. And sports, the profession, the dollar amount spent on this is tremendous. Having said that, that will provide, having in whatever shape or form you're thinking about, monitoring a building, a high school student can be, they can apply for some scholarship, or maybe how much do the McDonald's pay? $15 an hour? No, you don't know. You don't go to McDonald's. Come on. Okay, but the point is they can make some pocket money. Besides, most important is that they get the leadership and the training on site, which is very important. And I think that adds, Mr. Miller, to the educational component of it. So don't forget that part of it. Even though we are kind of subletting or subbing to with the YMCA, let's not forget that component of providing opportunities for the students to do the same thing here.
So youth development as well as activities. Very good. Thank you.
All right. Any final thoughts?
I'm just as excited as Victor. I don't think this opportunity would, if this specific opportunity would have happened, without that, I don't think we would have had this vision. I think I told one of the park board members, if we don't do this now, we won't do this for 10 years, because you won't have this set of circumstances that'll make it viable. So I think this is one of those really unique opportunities in life that you can say what we did was really cool. I mean, this is going to be a very neat thing for our community. Greene is blessed with perhaps the best park system in the area. And every year we just take it up a notch, to be honest. And we have fantastic outdoor facilities. We have more acreage of parkland in Greene than any community. And I'm very proud of what we've done and what we're still like to do. And we certainly appreciate the direction of our park board and all this. But this is an incredible opportunity. And you think about fitness, I'll say it. Okay, I play pickleball, right? So, and it really does kind of shut down. It really does kind of shut down a lot of activities in those winter months. And the hard surface here would be perfect for developing those types of activities. But if you haven't played pickleball or experienced it, I'm just going to bring up this example. You see people playing, and people joke about it being a senior activity, right? But 60, 70-year-olds down there playing, some of them come every single day. They've found something that gives them friendships, activity, it's social. A lot of them picked it up during COVID. It's when you see that sport and how it helps people live healthy lives. And that's just one sport, and that's one I'm going to speak to. But really, so many activities that when we shut it down in the winter, it's if we can provide those opportunities that we provide spring, summer, fall, and extend that through the winter, I think it brings a healthier community, and that's really been a focus. Whether you like to run in grade 8 race series or just walk in our parks, but this is just one more thing that keeps our community healthy, and so I'm pretty excited about that one more facet that we'll have that is not necessarily what you see in every city. So that's my final thoughts. I appreciate everybody being here. Look forward to working with you. Eric Musey's here. I didn't mention him. He's been a big help and kind of identifying, what types of facilities. And so we appreciate the partnerships. School board, Bob Campbell's here, and Julie, their communications. Everybody here is a part of our community and part of getting it better. So thank you for being a partner in this.
Let's decide on a groundbreaking.
Groundbreaking date.
There we go. Groundbreaking will be in 2023. That's probably correct.
Yeah, that's correct. So our goal for the schools, which now has, also led to the community court, is we're wrapping up our site drawings by the end of the school year so that the site construction can begin sometime next summer. It may be late summer by the time the contracts are awarded and things start to mobilize, but that's the plan, is to start next summer.
So we'll get you a hard hat and a shovel. You'll be there. All right. Thank you, everybody. Hopefully everybody will be there. All right. Thank you.